If our experience with 5G has taught us anything, it's that we can't afford to play catch-up on technologies that are critical, fundamental, foundational to our economic security and our national security. For years, the Chinese government subsidized companies like Huawei and ZTE to achieve a dominant market share for 5G internationally, and we have been struggling to catch up ever since. We're still struggling to catch up. And it's a similar story, as you said earlier, for semiconductors and many other critical supply chains. And I think we all want to make sure that we're not letting what happened to 5G happen again. And I just wonder, in your mind, what do you see as the next 5G? In other words, a technology or technologies that experts tell us are going to make an enormous difference for our security and our competitiveness. And feel free, if there's more than one, give us a sense of what that landscape looks like.
Certainly. Thank you, Senator Bennet, for the question. I think just as absolutely critical to be thinking ahead in so many areas in terms of technology and also in terms of manufacturing as well. But your question is focused on the technologies, and I would say you just look at the Chinese planning documents, and they have talked about AI, quantum computing, you know, the new technologies, the new energy technologies. These are all about cornering the market of the future economy, and we absolutely have to be lighting the fires underneath ourselves, making the investments that are going to capitalize on the strengths that we have in terms of innovation, in terms of workforce, in terms of speed and agility, to allow us to compete and compete effectively, because we can, but we need to focus our energies there.
I hope you're hearing. I think it's interesting. It's almost unanimity, I think, from this committee today, saying that if you look back over the last 30 years or so, in many ways, our approach has really been an abject failure. And it's not just, as you say, it's not just about trade. It's also a question of our investment in our own critical technologies in this country. And if we can, continue to do that for the next 5 years, I think we're going to be in real trouble. So the committee's going to want to know how the administration is working together, not just its trade policy, but all of its policies, to make sure that we turn the corner here with respect to China. I think that when you and I were speaking about your nomination, one of the things you said to me, and I hope you don't mind if I, was that it's wrong to think of China as taking over the world. They're pursuing a China first policy. The question is, do we want to be collateral damage? And we don't want to be collateral damage, which means, I think, we've got to have a much more robust diplomatic and trading relationship with other folks around the world that have similar equities with respect to the Chinese government's mercantilist, authoritarian approach to the world. And I wonder, this is a remaining moment, in the 20th century, American trade policy was a powerful lever for free markets and competition and the rule of law, and around the world as a counter to Soviet communism. How should we think about an American trade policy in the 21st century that promotes those values as well as democratic values like privacy and free speech, especially when compared to the Chinese regime?
Certainly. I think that we were guided by a very long time by the principle that more trade is better, and more trade would lead to a better world. And in some ways, it has gotten us very far. The world today is very different from the one 70 years ago. But I think that what these policies have also shown us is that we need to also be trading smart. We need to be trading strategically, knowing the challenges and the competition that we are up against. We've got to have more effective and thoughtful policies that get us beyond just more is better. But we also need to be asking, how do we do this smartly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the last 5 seconds I have, I just wanted to call your attention to a recent Mexican Supreme Court decision on potatoes. Finally, after all these years, we have the opportunity to open access for the potato farmers in the San Luis Valley in Colorado, and I just hope that you're aware of that decision and that we're working hard with Mexico to achieve that access.
I'm very aware of it, Senator Bennett, and I'm a little surprised that Senator Crapo hasn't mentioned it.
Well, I mentioned it on his behalf.